Loans, credit, ngongole, chibwerete. We've all borrowed money at one time or another. Could have been from a friend or from a bank to grow your business or for your education. Governments borrow money too. Mainly, they borrow to finance economic growth, but we all need to pay back. That's just the basic rule. This has not been the case for Zambia recently. We've borrowed billions of dollars and we've lost our creditors' confidence simply because we did not use the money in appropriate ways or profitable ways. Romans 13 verse 8, let no debt remain outstanding except the continuing debt to love one another. Proverbs 22 verse 7, the rich rules over the poor and the borrower is the slave to the lender. Psalm 37 verse 21, the wicked borrows and does not repay. On this week's episode, we'll look at different views from our well-learned experts on this issue. Zambian Economics will give its opinion as well. We will critically analyze the schools of thought from these selected economists and financial experts and institutions. Curry found out that Zambia had accumulated loans from China totaling 6.4 billion United States dollars at the end of 2017. If this figure is correct, Zambia may have a total debt of 14.7 billion, including state-guaranteed loans, of which Chinese loans account for some 44%. We have borrowed in excess of 3 billion United States dollars in Eurobonds. There was a $750 million secured in 2012 for revamping the national railway line, which was not invested. A 1.5 billion US dollars secured in 2014, and another 1.1 billion United States dollars secured a year earlier, meant for capital projects, but all were diverted into other projects. Yet all were due for servicing from 2022 to 2027. Now, the government has decided to spend a 5 million United States dollars to a French company. What are some experts saying about this? Number one on our list is Chiwamba Kanyama. In an article by Chiwamba Kanyama in Lusaka Times of April 16, 2020, Chiwamba Kanyama, an economist, talks of a lunch discussion with the IMF mission chief to Zambia, Tsidi Tsikata, when he was still at the fund, where he learned how desperate the chief was about helping Zambia to be on an economic path of recovery following the 2015-2016 economic crisis. According to Chiwamba Kanyama, he says, in the case of Zambia, our external debt is 11.2 billion United States dollars. When we add domestic debt, it comes to around 20 billion United States dollars. So, the face value of Zambia's debt is about 20 billion United States dollars. However, Chiwamba also explains what it means when institutions say your debt numbers are opaque. This simply means that you have not provided enough information on your loan agreements, and that without this input, even debt restructuring becomes a huge problem. End of quote. He's correct on this one. First of all, this will not be an easy step, because when you analyze the nature of our debt, it makes it very difficult for such a bailout. 55% of Zambia's external debt is in commercial loans. These are debts advanced by financial institutions and have interest rates determined by the prevailing market conditions. Unlike concessional loans, these have high interest rates and are highly profit motivated, which means forgiveness is unlikely. On the other hand, Zambia has also bilateral and multilateral debt, which accounted for only 22% of external debt by 2019. Such kind involve other countries' central banks or multilateral institutions such as the World Bank and the IMF. The problem with such is that they need another HIPIC initiative, which is quite tricky for Zambia at the moment. Another problem is that about 30% of all Zambia's external debt between 2018 and 2019 was owed to China. It makes it complicated because China has been hit by the COVID-19, and secondly, there was lack of publicly available information around the terms and conditions of these Chinese loans. We should move on from always thinking of creating financial problems because we know the IMF will bail us out. Whenever did the developed countries go to the IMF to solve their mess of debt repayment crisis? Number two on our list, Fred Membe, is the leader of the Socialist Party. In an article on May 30th, 2020, Membe says, and I quote, "Going to seek advice from lizards or from lizards is also an indication that they consider our institutions, our Ministry of Finance, our central bank, our legal ministry, not competent enough to provide correct advice." End of quote. I agree with Fred. He got his economics correct. He didn't jump out of the window at school. Number 3 on the list, Shewo. He is an economic statistician. How I love that subject. I enjoyed every part of it when I started lecturing 16 years ago. In an article on May 30th, 2020, he says, and I quote, "There is no Zambian financial advisory firm or political party with a track record to be able to pull off the kind of debt restructuring that the government needs." He also talks of how Lazard Freres tried to help the Mozambican National Oil Company to help raise a $2 billion to refinance gas development projects in 2018. It's important to put genuine seriousness when the country is thirsty of economic solutions. Number 4, economist Noel Chama. He's disagreeing on our reasoning on government's decision to contract a foreign firm Lazard to restructure Zambia's debt. He says, "We should understand the full mandate of the financial advisor." He said, and I quote, "Perhaps I should ask, do they know that when Zambia was contracting the Eurobond, a financial advisor and debt underwriter was contracted and paid colossal sums of money in hard currency?" He said, end of quote. Come on, guys. This is not rocket science. Every first-year economics or financial student can give you huge figures related to such costs. Solicitors, accounting costs, insurance costs, direct costs, commissions, etc. We are not interested in such kind of figures here. The issue at hand is, why give this money to a French company? Are we too dull to solve our own problems? Let's learn to call a spade a spade. Number 5 on our list, Dr. Kately Kalumba. He's the first chairperson for the Zambia Center for Interparty Dialogue, ZCID. Lusaka Times of December 13, 2019 says, the former finance minister in the MMD government before Ngando Magande says there is no country in the world without debt and that there is nothing wrong with borrowing for investment in capital projects, and that most of Zambia's recent debt has gone into infrastructure which is visible to everybody. Dr. Kalumba further states that the government has not been reckless in the utilization of the borrowed funds. Wow, these are the leaders who once held the highest position in the Ministry of Finance that makes economic planning. No wonder the MMD government under the Chiluba regime did not perform as well as we expected. Anyway, this is quite serious. Something is wrong. Number 6 on the list, Dr. Waliangando. According to a report of November 22, 2019, the finance minister, while addressing investors from North America, South America, Europe, Middle East, and Asia, at an investors forum held at the Hale Adams Hotel in Washington, D.C., USA, attributed the kwacha's depreciation to low reserves caused by debt servicing and low production and supply in the mining sector. If economic decisions and debt servicing could come from such economists and not from other politicians, then we wouldn't be where we are today. Can we let the economists do their job? The entire Ministry of Finance and National Planning, with competent professional economists, accountants, and financial analysts, should be left alone without the politicians' dictatorship hand. Number 7 on our list, Tembo. According to Lusaka Times, April 2, 2020, the Patriots for Economic Progress leader Tembo says Zambia is better off immediately defaulting on external debt in order to preserve some capacity for the country to meet its domestic debt obligations as and when they fall due. He said the Minister of Finance is as important as the Minister of Health in the fight against the COVID-19. Yes, this is one of the ways you can look at this issue, because some countries will take advantage of the COVID situation to ask for bailouts. Number 8 on our list, Dr. Lovindahavazoga. According to Higa's News, 7 August 2019, he says Zambia shouldn't get an IMF bailout. He said that Zambia should find internal solutions to its debt challenges because getting an IMF bailout package means acquiring more liabilities. He said government must find resources to kickstart the GDP rebasing exercise before the end of 2019. Wow, this was great reasoning from economist Havazoga. But recently, as reported by the Daily Mail on the 1st June 2020, Havazoga goes the other direction and supports government on the hiring of Lazard Freres as his financial advisor. For this one, he got it wrong. Yes, the reasoning he has given us of accusing people who oppose this move of being ignorant of international money and capital markets does not hold water in this particular case. Number 9 on our list is President Hakainde, popularly referred to as Bali or Fix-It nowadays. He is the leader of the largest opposition party, a qualified economist, a very successful businessman. In his press statement on the 29th May 2020, he says, he and his party have been advising the PF government ever since 2012 on issues of debt as follows. Number 1, to stop unplanned and excessive borrowing, lest debt levels become unsustainable. Number 2, we need to have a plan for the repayment of the enormous debt. Number 3, the sinking fund set for debt repayment needed to be adequately funded. Despite the government's deaf ears to his advice, instead they call him a bitter man. However, he says he still has advice for the government. He says, and I quote, a successful debt restructuring exercise that is rapidly executed and provides enough debt relief is contingent on taking steps to immediately restore debt sustainability and rebuild the collapsed economy. End of quote. Wow, another brilliant economist. This is the reasoning we're looking for. Number 10 on our list, Dr. Richard Inderway. According to Lusaka Times of April 22, 2020, Dr. Richard Inderway is a consultant and a lecturer. He specializes in chemical engineering process, macroeconomics, nation branding, marketing, business case development, business arbitration, and corporate strategy. He says, asking for IMF loans or support packages is uncalled for, as our country has the capability to finance and sustain its economic growth without external support. Moreover, Zambia is no exception, since Zambia will have to work its way up to riches. No shortcut, please. End of quote. This is very correct. The doc also emphasizes on the diversification of our production industry. Now, we have analyzed 10 economists and financial consultants giving advice towards this huge mess of debt crisis our government has acquired. From our point of view, we say, let's work our way out by applying the correct economic policies, learn from our past mistakes, because by the end of the day, we need to learn how to learn. That's when we can learn, and only then will we change. And remember, change is inevitable. No country has ever developed from foreign aid, no debt, and Zambia is no exception.